Okay. So hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the combined heat and power systems and why CHP systems might not be the best choice always. We focused on the impacts of the IAC 2090 CHP recommendations on emission changes and the human health. Oops. Okay. So a little bit of motivation. We know that the main focus of the IAC is recommending energy efficiency measures, and those directly are related to the air emissions. And Utah's Wasatch Front, we know that have some air quality problems, and this specific area does not meet the national air quality standards. One of the IAC energy efficiency recommendations is implementing combined heat and power systems, and we want to focus on this specific system and how would the CHP affect air emissions and the human health in local and in general scale. So how does the IAC group performed in 2019? 2019 was the best representative IAC analysis year because they completed 95% of the contract. They completed 19 assessments, resulted in 100 recommendations, and about 92 gigawatt hour electricity saving and about 100,000 million BTU natural gas savings. So we need to translate these electricity and natural gas savings to emission changes. And we know that those result in emission reductions. But before that, let's a little bit talk about the combined heat and power system. Those are kind of the technologies that we usually recommend to implement when we need electricity and heating in one specific place. It's made of an engine or turbine that can provide the electricity, and also from the exhaust gas, we can of this electricity production, we can use a heat recovery unit like a heat exchanger to provide the steam or hot water required for the facility. So as you can see here, by producing the electricity, we reduce the amount of electricity that we get from the grid. But the other thing that is important is that implementing CHP and increase the natural gas usage on site, and that is our main focus. But how emission changes due to these recommendations. So we looked at the electricity and the natural gas savings separately. We know that with CHP and without CHP ARs, we have different amount of electricity savings. With CHP ARs, we can save more electricity, and you can see here. And without CHP, we can save more natural gas because we know that the CHP systems increase the natural gas usage. So we kind of have different trends in electricity and natural gas aspect. Yeah, and as I said, more electricity is saved with CHP ARs and less natural gas saved with CHP ARs. Then we translate those electricity and natural gas savings to emission changes. So we selected 5 different emissions because we need that 5 emissions in our health analysis tool. If you look at the first and second column, the pink and the orange one, those are the emission reduction associated with electricity saving, nothing related to natural gas saving. So you can see that the first one is with CHP ARs. So as I mentioned, with CHP ARs, we saved more electricity, so we expected to have more emission savings as well. But look at the third and the fourth one, which are the emission reduction associated with natural gas savings. And we can see that with CHP ARs, that we increase the natural gas usage on site, we increase the NOx emissions at a local scale. And yeah, that's because the CHP increases the natural gas usage. which resulted in lower emission savings. But we have some different types of control systems that we can use when we implementing CHP to kind of reduce that NOx emissions. One of them is lean premix turbine. So the conventional turbine is that you have the airflow, the fuel coming to the combustor, and you can see the temperature in the combustor area. But if you use that technique, you pre-mix the fuel and the airflow before going to the combustion, and that will reduce the combustor temperature and resulted in a reduce in a hot spot, a local hot spot. And we know that when we have less local hot spot, we have less NOx formations. So with the IAC 2019 recommendations, the NOx from the natural gas savings was an increase in NOx about 21 tons. But if we use this technology, we can reduce that to 2.7, but we still have an increase in NOx emissions. The other technique is the selective catalytic reduction. That's kind of the after combustor control system. When we have the NOx and we inject a liquid reductant agent, and in this case, we use ammonia, that the ammonia reacts with the NOx from the exhaust gas, and those pass through a catalyst and can produce nitrogen and water, and that can be an effective way to reduce the NOx emissions. So as you know, we increased the NOx emission by 21 tons, and using this system, we can have even a decrease in NOx emissions, about 5.5 tons of decrease in NOx emissions. So if we compare the uncontrolled, the lean premix turbine, and the selective catalytic reduction system, we can see that these two categories show an increase in NOx, and this one has the best result. And we can actually reduce the NOx emissions. So that when we have all those emission changes related to PM2.5, NOx, ammonia, volatile organic compounds, now is the time that we can translate all those emission changes to health impact. So for this purpose, we used COBRA, which is Co-Benefit Risk Assessment Tool. COBRA is a screening tool that has 4 different stages. The first stage is user-defined changes in emissions. Those are the inputs that we have for the COBRA. We input the emission changes, the location that we're looking for, the analysis year, and the category. So we define that, okay, we have these amount of emission changes related to electricity saving, and also these amounts of emission changes related to natural gas saving. The other step is that the COBRA translate all those 5 emission changes to PM2.5 concentration change. Then it translated that to the health impacts, and finally to monetary impacts. So if you just look at the left figure, these are the total health benefit in the whole US from the IAC recommendations just in 2019. We have different emission scenarios with CHP ARs. The other one is without CHP ARs. It's a scenario that says that, okay, what if we didn't have any CHP ARs in 2019? The other one, the lean premix, is that, okay, what if we implement the CHP ARs, but with lean premix turbine? And the last one is the selective catalytic reduction control system. So we can see that with selective catalytic reduction control system, along with CHP implementation, we can see a higher health benefit in the whole US. But our main focus is that, okay, what happened to just Utah? So look at the right picture, we can see that with CHP ARs, without any emission control system on it, we have a negative health outcome in the local scale. And that's because when we implement CHP in a populated area, like in Salt Lake City, we increase the natural gas usage on site. So we increase the emissions in a populated area. So we have a negative health impacts in that specific area in local scale. And on the other hand, we reduce the electricity usage. So we have a higher electricity saving and consequently health benefits, but from the grid, from an unpopulated, might be an unpopulated area. So in summary, we can say that using the IIAC recommendations, we are able to quantify the health and economic benefits of an effective energy saving program, both in Utah and in the whole US. The main point of this presentation is that for CHP implementation, we need careful consideration, especially in populated area and the area with poor air quality like Salt Lake City. We can use different control system on CHP to kind of reduce the adverse local health effects. And the best choice is the selective catalytic reduction, which resulted in higher NOx reduction. The two important factors when we want to recommend CHP is just focus on the site location. Is it in a populated or an unpopulated area? And if we can recommend them to implement any control system with CHP ARs. So yeah, that's. I can see a question, why are the health benefits for SCR less than ARs without CHP?
Ellie, are you at a good point to take some questions?
Yeah, so Nathan asked that, I think Nathan's asked about.
Nathan, do you mind just chiming in with your question?
Yeah, I was just curious why in the total health benefits in the US, the without CHP ARs is lower than the SCR, but in Utah, it's higher than the SCR. When it seemed like the SCR was better in every way.
Okay, so to answer your question, the main reason is that we have different types of, I can't say. Okay, so the main reason is that fossil fuel and the new renewable energy profile is kind of different in different parts of area. So in Utah, we have higher fossil fuel based power plants. And if we reduce that electricity, we can see a higher health benefit. But for example, think about somewhere like California, we have more the electricity profile is highly related to renewable sources. So if we reduce the electricity, we cannot see that much health benefit. And I can show you this picture. This is from the COBRA. It shows the PM 2.5 concentration changes due to our due to the all recommendation that the IAC has made. You can see that here we see higher PM 2.5 changes, so consequently higher health benefits in comparison to the whole US. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good question, Nathan. Other questions from the group?
I had a question. Can the catalyst be also be implemented to just regular boilers that might release NOx as well to save on emissions?
Okay, so just catalyst is not enough for this purpose. For this purpose, we need the liquid reductant agent, the ammonia. And that reaction will have a higher efficiency if that happened on the catalyst. So something like this SCR, and I know that there are another type of control system that are after the combustion system. Yeah, I think that's related to those specific area. But the lean premix turbine is kind of before combustion control that you can use to reduce the NOx emissions.
Thank you.
Other questions? I either don't hear any or I don't see any other hands. So Ellie, I just want to make sure this might be a question that is on other people's minds. So I just want to make sure we're clear on this going forward after your presentation. So prior to your presentation, I would say in general, we had headed in a direction of, if we had to make an air quality argument for combined heat and power, that we wouldn't do it, basically, because of the impacts that happen when you basically increase gas use at a location from electricity, the fuel switch. If I'm following you correctly, essentially what you're saying is for those situations where we have that opportunity, if we, in short, include an SCR solution as part of the combined heat and power system that we're proposing, that gets us beyond, that gets us past the air quality issues. In fact, we can make the argument that we are, in fact, improving air emissions. Am I summarizing that correctly?
Yeah, totally. And the other thing is that while we're recommending to kind of have the control systems like the lean premix turbine or the SCR system, the main concern would be the cost. That would increase our cost savings. No, the implementation cost, not cost savings.
Right.
But there are some, let me share my screen again. There are some incentives that, if you look at in the EPA website, there are some incentives related to the CHP implementation at a federal level and the state level, and we can add those incentives when we want to reduce our cost and we want to justify our cost.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take one more look at the group. So how many of you are currently evaluating CHP ARs? Nobody currently doing it. How many of you have evaluated it in a past evaluation? I see Parker, I see Andrew, and I know Raul, we tried it recently. We didn't get too far. So Andrew and Parker and Raul, does this make sense to you, how you would do it differently? Any questions on it?
Yeah, Ellie, those incentives, are they for CHP in general, or are they for CHP with the concern of adding like that special turbine?
No, I think those are the general without any control systems, but there are many of incentives. Yeah, I looked at those incentives, and there are different types of incentives that a facility can use that, and that's one way to reduce our costs. Those are not related to just a control system. Those are for general CHP implementation.
Are you going to put this information in a document or something in the internal references so that we can look at it again when we do these ARs in the future? Because
Sure,
there's no way I'm going to remember all this stuff, but it's really good.
Yeah, sure, I will do that.
So this is why I wanted to record this, Andrew. We'll make sure, like every other class, to get this also uploaded. But yeah, we'll make those materials available too. So thank you, Ellie. Nice job.
Thank you.
Raul, I was just going to say, to the point of incentives, if we can make the argument that we're actually improving air quality, the Dominion project that we're doing that could potentially also include CHP projects. So there are incentives at play here, and potentially fairly significant ones. So thank you, Ellie. That helps to figure out how to move forward. Oh, I got another question. Brittany's got a question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, based on different assessments, will the amount of catalyst change, and will we have access to the information to know like how much? Or do we just say, you know, this, if we added catalyst, then this will be the result?
Actually, it's not just about the catalyst. We need to justify the cost for the whole system, the SCR system. And there are some sources that I can send it to you offline to look at them. And I think based on the different application and different facility, we have to propose them different control systems.
Okay, thank you.
And Brittany, your question prompts me actually to step back and say where we're at with this AR in this program is that we actually to date have never even looked at emission controls as an inclusion. And so the main point takeaway here is that we need to be adding that aspect to these recommendations if we are recommending them. And so figuring out exactly what those are will be the next steps in that. Okay, well, thank you, Ellie.